Kia ora.
The Honourable Steve Chadwick.
Thank you, Mr Chair. I did want to speak on part one, but anyway, I'll have a crack at weaving in something on part two. And I did want to congratulate the Minister and the Chair, Tariana Turia. I heard little snippets when I wasn't here about the journey, and we wouldn't be at the stage where Tau Hinari acknowledged today about saying the door is closing in an amazing chapter if we didn't open the book and start the chapter in the first place. And I do acknowledge Tukuroi Morgan, and then Judy Keel actually picked up the bill. But I was given the sponsorship of the bill because I was a midwife, and it looked a good fit with a health professional to then sponsor that next leg of the journey. But I couldn't have done it without the leadership of Helen Clark. And it was Helen Clark who was brave, and I do remember, Mr Hyde, I must tell you, in this House when I sat for hours and hours in the chair over the Smoke-Free Amendment Environment Bill, it was you who said one day that I was a hairy-legged feminist from Helengrad, which was hardly the case, as a dear old midwife and granny supporting smoke-free legislation. I took it. I took lots of offensive remarks because I knew it was the right thing to do. I just smiled at you and let you blither on because we were on a journey. We knew we were doing the right thing in our chapter, and I want to congratulate...
Point of order.
Mr Chair,
point of order.
However interesting this may be, we are on part two, which is amendments relating to offences, regulations, purposes.
I know the member is, and we had a slight diversion, but
a slight tolerance there. But I was also going to acknowledge that Tony Ryle has now supported Tariana Turia, and I think that is the growing awareness, and you won't call a point of order when I say something nice like that, will you, Dr Hutchinson? In fact, you were the only member in the House that voted for the smoke-free amendment legislation, and I congratulate you, and Dr Linda Scott. That's right, we never forget that. Doctors, health professionals, health practitioners. But public health, and this is part two, Mr Speaker, you'll be pleased, public health isn't just all about penalties, offences, infringement notices and regulations. Public health is about education, bringing society with you on this journey of change. It is about excise tax, and then there is this little bit at the end of it about offences. And I don't think we want to get too hung up in the offence provision at all. This is a small part, but you cannot bring in any public health change into effect without having that carrot and stick. And I think here that they have, the Health Select Committee's done a great job and have got the level of offences about right, $10,000 from $2,000. $2,000 people laughed at in the past, and I think it's about right to put it up to $10,000. Actually, we see lots of people in our pursuit of this legislation where tobacco is sold to young people. They come out of the shop and actually on-sell it outside, break down a packet of cigarettes and sell those cigarettes individually for quite some profit. And so I don't think penalties are always the answer to thinking we're going to improve smoking reduction over time. But it does give a societal sanction that if you breach the provisions in this Act then and get caught, you'll be found. I do want to just mention Clause 14, that the committee quite rightly recommended that it should be amended to give effect to the proposal to remove the specific requirement for the Minister to consult with tobacco retailers, manufacturers, importers or wholesalers. I think that was an outrageous provision, that the Minister's forced to consult with the industry. In this case, the industry is peddling something which harms society and on a very high scale of harm. So I think this will better align with Article 5.3 of the World Health Organisation's framework for the Convention on Tobacco Control, which is about the protection of tobacco policy. I think these provisions are right. There are some things in legislation, we'll be back in this House in about 5 years, looking at the next stage of what legislation we bring in. I was sorry that certain things weren't brought forward in this bill, plain packaging, I think, banning vending machines. There's also other little bits and pieces that in about 5 years will be back in the House and another minister will be promoting this next leg of the journey. But I think the regulations in Part 2 are fitting.
Dr Paul Hutchison.
Mr Chair, just want to take